In today's video, we're going to take broken glass and melt it, grind it, and polish it into a functioning jigsaw puzzle. So, let's get started. The first thing we have to do is select the molds that we're going to melt the glass into, and since we're doing a 2x2 puzzle, I got 4 corner puzzle piece molds. Before we can start putting glass inside of the molds, we first have to cut up some kiln paper and kiln cloth. This stuff is going to go in between the glass and the mold, preventing it from sticking and making it much easier to remove. We have all of our molds selected and ready to go. We also have all the kiln cloth and paper that we need. Now at this point, it's time for us to fill up all these molds with glass. So let's get started. Usually when I make these puzzle pieces, I don't have a particular theme in mind, but since we're making a complete set, I decided to make a theme for this one. I decided to base it off of 4 elements: water, earth, sun, and wind. The idea is that the color of each piece is going to correspond with those elements. In this case, we're currently making the water puzzle piece, so we're using a lot of blue glass. The second one is the sun theme, so of course we're going to use a lot of yellow glass. I mostly used bright yellow, but I mixed in a couple of darker ones so it has a bit more of a dynamic color range. The third one represents wind, and this one was kind of hard to do. So what I ended up doing was trying to recreate the effect of smoke in a wind tunnel. So I used a lot of white strings of glass, and then I put a black backdrop on it to make the white strings pop. Last but not least, we have the earth-themed puzzle piece, and this one here is going to have a lot of green glass mixed in. Using both the light and dark green, I want this to represent like grass and foliage. I also added a bunch of brown glass to make it look like dirt. Now that we have all the molds filled, it's time to start melting everything together. To melt the glass, we're going to put it into a kiln, which is going to get raised up to about 1500 degrees. So far the green one here looks good. Unfortunately with the blue one, a piece of glass that wasn't compatible somehow got into the mix and it caused a bunch of cracking all over the glass. I have no idea how this even got in there, so we're gonna have to break this thing apart. We're gonna get all the parts of the glass that are good and we're gonna remelt it together. Before we do that though, we're going to melt the other 2 pieces together. Glass has what is called COE, coefficient of expansion, meaning that it expands when it's heated and contracts when it's cooled. Different types of glass expand and contracts at different amounts, and for some reason, a piece of glass that expands and contracts differently from the rest managed to get into this batch. So all I'm doing here is removing that piece of glass, replacing it with some compatible glass, then putting it back into the kiln after the other 2 pieces have melted, and now let's see if it works. I wasn't expecting this to work, but to my surprise, it actually worked perfectly. No cracks formed, and you can't even tell that there was a mistake to begin with. At this point, all the glass has been melted, so now we're going to take it out of the molds and clean off any debris. With everything cleaned, we get to do a quick test fit to see how the puzzle is going to look, and you can already start to see the pattern, but we still have a lot of these thorns and rough edges that we have to get rid of on the glass, so we're going to take it over to the flat lap and begin cold working each piece. We're going to start by grinding away all the thorns, and once the backs are nice and flat, we're going to work on the edges, getting rid of any texture and sharp spots. Now we're going to check to make sure everything is nice and square. After that, we're going to head over to the belt sander. This is where we can work on all the round areas and hard to reach spots. The hardest spot to reach is the concave part where the puzzle piece connects, so I have to use this grinding disc to be able to cold work that inside edge. At this point, most of the rough spots and sharp edges are gone, but there's still a couple of little areas that we gotta work on. So to get those fine details, we're gonna be using this flex shaft here with a glass grinding bit, and you can see that I'm pouring water on it as I grind the glass. That's because it prevents it from overheating, and it also stops glass dust from getting into the air. So we just knocked out a bunch of cold working on all of the puzzle pieces. We got rid of all the bumps and stuff on the edge by rounding it over. We also rounded out the inside parts of the puzzle pieces, that way they fit together nicer. The next step is to get rid of all of this texture that you see on the face of the glass. On top of that, the front edge of the puzzle pieces hasn't been beveled yet, so it's still a bit rough. We're gonna make quick work of those 2 issues. The first part is the texture on the front, so we're gonna grind the tops flat just like we did on the backs. Now you're going to notice a little bit of a pattern because we're back at the belt sander, but this time we're going to grind the top edge, making it much smoother and free of any chips. And of course, to work on the concave part, we have to use that grinding disc. I just got done flattening all of the puzzle pieces, so there's no more bumps or texture. All the chips are now gone from the edge of each puzzle piece. You can see they look pretty good. Now we have to get rid of all these deep scratches. To do this, we have to use a bunch of these resin pads. Each pad is a different color, and it correlates to the size of the diamond that's impregnated inside. And what we do is we go with a rough grit, then a medium, then a high grit, and this makes those scratches smaller and smaller until it's ready to be polished. I repeat this process for every piece, and once everything is good and free of any big scratches, it's time to move on to the polish. This is going to make the glass nice and shiny, and we're using what's called cerium oxide put onto a felt wheel. And during this whole process, we have to be very careful because if we press too hard for too long, the glass will get hot and crack, and that means we have to redo the entire piece. Luckily, no mistakes were made, and the glass is nice and shiny. But now we're going to even out the texture on the back, so what we have to do is cover the front face that we just polished with a bunch of masking tape. Once the glass is covered, we're going to take it over to the Sandblaster, and this is where we're going to blast the back of the puzzle piece, and this gives it a nice frosty look. And it also allows the color on the front to pop a little more. We are finally at the home stretch. All we have left to do is to attach some hardware on the back of each puzzle piece. This allows the glass to be mounted on the wall. And after that, we're going to apply a little bit of sealer to the sandblasted surface, getting rid of that dusty look and leaving it with a nice sheen. And for the moment of truth, we can finally assemble the puzzle. Luckily for us, there were no problems and every piece fit together. I really think the colors on this one represent the elements really well, especially the wind one. But of course, let me know what you think down in the comments. I also have prints available on my Printify shop, the link is in the description. And if you want to keep up with my other art projects, then be sure to subscribe, and thanks for your time.